You know who?
From the high plains of the Midwest, I bid you good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever your time zone might be. My nod to the late and great Art Bell. I'm Keith Sharp.
And I'm G. Drussel.
And we welcome you to Life After Life, a paranormal webcast where we talk about the paranormal, UFOs, or the unexplained. And the biggest question of them all, what happens when we die? Stay tuned.
Does it just
and
come
we're on? No.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm running for my hat, and so there it is, right?
I miss that hat.
I know.
like that
I haven't
hat,
wore
dude.
this one in a long time.
Hey, I wanted to mention this last week. Were you wearing an Alien Beatles shirt?
Yeah. It was the Abbey Road
With aliens, right?
with aliens walking across.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's funny because I've even had young people, like a younger guy, said, "Oh, I love that shirt."
For sure.
He understood it.
Yeah, that's cool.
like 12 years old. Or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
But,
that's cool.
someone's late.
Hi, Pamela.
Just tease him. Just tease him. Well,
I mean, you know.
hey, yeah, is your mic on?
Hey, Pamela, we were laughing about how, like, even though we're always late, we still do the 30-second countdown.
I know.
Every time.
Yeah, it's like we tell everybody, like they're going, okay, you're 10 minutes late. Now you want an extra 30 seconds of time?
And before
Really?
every show, Keith looks at me. He puts his little mouse on the 30-second thing. He's like, "Do we want to do this?" I'm like, "Absolutely."
Give us 30 more seconds of time just to goof off, right?
And it's fun. Like, it sounds good. So,
Hey, I see a lot of new people in the chat room.
welcome, chat.
So I'm going to say,
Uh,
I'm going to do some shout outs here if I can. Of course, I don't have my
I wish we
glasses.
could behind the scenes of this show every Tuesday.
I know. Yeah. You guys would be laughing your ass off. All right. Chandra, hello. Randy, hello. Mel, how are you? Let's see who else. It's the same. Oh, it's like the same three people. That's all. Looks like we got a whole bunch of people in here. I'm just teasing.
Sean Harmon.
Shannon Trusty, welcome. Sean Harmon, welcome.
He's a Matthew Sullivan fan.
Susie Heath.
Did you say Kristen Grams?
Huh?
Kristen Grams?
Kristen. Well, I haven't got there yet.
Oh, my bad.
Give me a minute, will you?
I'm just trying to help you.
JW28, thank you for showing up.
J-Dub.
Magenta, hello. How are you? Mona, I can't believe you're here. No, I can because it's a crime show. So you showed up for that.
What's up, Mona? Hi, Mona.
And I think that's it.
Wait, what's this? Who's Sassy?
Sassy Sandy, hello.
Sassy Sandy.
Welcome, everybody. Okay, hang on. Pam's not on.
That's okay. Pam doesn't need.
No, Pam doesn't.
No, you should be.
People love Pam.
Hang on.
Hey, you know who I haven't seen lately? Oh, Magenta. Hi, Magenta.
Yeah, I just said that, Garrett.
And Lockup Raw. Hang on. I'm just perusing.
Okay.
Really fast.
Yeah, let Garrett fix something. I got to fix Pam's mic.
Donnie B, Teresa, Joshua, Amber E. Wait, who's this? Wait. Karen Taylor. Thank you. D. Berlin. How are you? Jeez, Kimberly Diedrich. Thank you. Man. Hey, can I tell you guys something funny?
No.
Okay. Well, you know I'm not very good with computers and stuff, right? Here we go.
How does that happen? Hello? Hello?
Okay, that didn't work at all. But it wouldn't be our show, would it, if it didn't? And I don't want to.
Southern Soul. Hang on. Southern Soul Terra SST LLC. Hello.
Hey, Pam, is that connected over there? I'm going to pull.
Look at all these people in here.
I'm going to pull my cord on national TV. On YouTube TV. Oh, yeah. Pull that cord harder, Pam.
Jeez.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it must be. That's weird. Let me put you in a 4. I know. Pam has nothing important to say today.
We need Pamela. I was gonna say I haven't seen Pat in a while.
Okay, now say something.
Something.
Oh my God. Hang on. Garrett, tell a joke or
I
something.
don't have a joke.
Your life.
Wow.
Just teasing. Okay, now try something.
Something.
Okay, now try something.
Something.
This is awesome.
Try it again.
Again.
Okay, it's got to be a mic word. Sorry, guys. Pam just going to have to talk loud tonight.
She can yell at us. She's used to it.
That makes
Hey,
no
does
sense.
Keith have bad hearing from being a musician like all these years?
Yes.
Does he?
Yes.
Oh, I have horrible.
Do you really?
Yes.
I've never noticed it.
My 84-year-old father says he listens to the TV too loud because he can hear it downstairs.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Who we
Really?
know has hearing loss as well.
Sorry about this,
So
guys.
you're used to yelling at him. Okay.
I feel like Zav Girl right now.
Who's Zav girl?
She always has problems, it seems like.
Who's
when
Zav
when she
girl?
does a show, it's
Hi,
like,
Susie.
did you hear that, Susie? She's, hello, Susie, Pam says.
I feel like for being somebody on YouTube, I
There,
know
you know, there's
nothing
that
about
biggest part of
YouTube.
me that wants to go to the cord drawer and grab another mic cord, but
I know because that's that side of you that like nerds out on.
I do nerd
technical
out
stuff,
on it, and it's
dude.
driving me nuts.
great.
There's absolutely no reason that should be not working.
Do you like how quickly I just give up on it? I'm like, yeah, it's not gonna work.
Other than Lake and Ray gets up here all the time. and
True.
desk.
True.
So
I mean,
still-
what little kid has a studio to play around in though?
I feel like I
Tap on that for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
test.
There it is.
There.
Okay.
Okay.
You're so-
Hi,
hey,
everybody.
Keith wasn't gonna quit. I mean, he wasn't gonna quit.
I will not be defeated.
Aw, thank you, Susie.
Okay, so can everybody hear Pam?
Yeah.
I liked it better when she wasn't talking. I'm gonna
Morning,
mute
Doug.
Shut up.
it.
Hey, happy birthday, Pamela.
Oh yeah, guys! Tomorrow's Pam's
Dude.
happy birthday. So,
Asshole. Wasn't even gonna say anything.
man, you didn't even give me time.
I'm so bad.
It's
with
my
names.
wife, and I didn't even
You-
get to announce it.
You reminded me. It's my Pamela.
It's my Pamela, and you didn't get to announce it. Okay, guys, I'm so
Jesus, what are you doing over there?
Matt's used to this. He knows how this show goes.
Yeah,
so.
guys, Matt Sullivan's on tonight.
Sorry, Matt.
I love it when Matt's
Thank you,
on.
Leapsha.
Okay, channel
Love it.
sounds. Okay, hang on a
Thank you,
second.
Mona.
Let's see.
Blast off.
Thank you, Joshua.
Okay. Okay, I think we're finally good.
Okay. Will
You,
push
you
the
would
applause?
think that we were
Push
just
the applause. Let's
Make
see
it
how
till
good
you
we are.
make it.
We did it.
we did it.
Greatest intro to date.
Yeah.
63 shows.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me go
Let's
ahead and
get
pull our
Matt.
guests up here.
What's up, Matt?
So Matt, it's like this is the third time you've been on the show, and how many times? I mean, this is just the normal thing, right?
It sure is. It
See,
sure
so
is.
even Matt knows. Everybody, welcome Matt Sullivan, please.
Yes.
How's it going, guys?
Great, man. First of all, thank you so much for taking time out to do the show. We really,
no
really,
problem.
really appreciate it.
I love this
And-
show.
Oh man, you're awesome. You're awesome. You and 5 other people. But,
Hey, what was the show we did with the paranormal where he submitted, what were those things called?
oh yeah, those EVPs. Did you ever watch
EVPs.
that, Matt? When we did that show, we played your EVPs.
Just say yeah. Just say yeah.
I think.
Yes,
you were
I did. Yes, I did.
No, he's investigating.
those-
I bet.
I
those-
definitely sent them to you. I know
Yeah,
that
we
you
used
said
them.
that you were going to use them, so that's
We did.
awesome.
We
That's
did.
awesome. Yeah, they were amazing and freaky.
Absolutely.
Yeah, those ones you
So-
sent were really clear.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
clear.
It was actually a property that I was living at in about 2007.
Wow.
And someone committed suicide there, and so there's a lot of really creepy things that would happen. I'd hear voices and stuff, and
Jesus.
Do you still have? I mean, and we'll get on the Delphi guy. I promise, guys. But
Well, I'm curious. Yeah.
But so, do you still have any paranormal problems?
no. As soon as I moved out of there, everything was fine. Like obviously, I was very interested in the paranormal, so sometimes me and my friends would do little investigations in scary places, and it was very rare to get legitimate EVPs and stuff like that.
For sure.
But in that house, we got a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah,
That
you
ma-
did.
That makes it even crazier though in hindsight, right?
Yeah.
Like when you get
absolutely.
something and then you don't get anything for a while. So
Mhm.
All right. So Matt, how about this Delphi case? these crazy turns, these things that are going on. And there's so many things, even with this Kegan Kline thing. I don't know what the motivation is behind all this for law enforcement exactly. I mean, he hasn't been arrested. His father hasn't been arrested. We're now going into 5 years. But can you share with some of my paranormal folks, who is Kegan Kline? Who is this guy?
Kegan Kline is a 27-year-old kid who terrorized Indiana, essentially. He would make fake profiles, and he would go after underage girls online, and would kind of masquerade as this 17 to 20-year-old man who was a model and rich, and would kind of lure girls to send him images and videos of them performing sex acts.
Wow.
It was very, very disturbing.
What a douchebag.
Yeah.
That's horrible. And so here's where it gets muddy for me. Okay, so after the girls were murdered, they raided his home, or they did a search on it just like a couple of weeks later. Is that right?
Yep. I think almost instantly they began going through the girls' social media stuff, and they went through each and every person that was on there, and they stumbled on to the Anthony Schatz profile, who had been in communication with Liberty up until a few days before the murders happened. So as they began looking into this, I think they traced it to an IP address that was coming out of Peru, Indiana, which was fairly nearby. And when they went to serve a warrant there, he was out of town. Something happened where they had to wait a couple of weeks. Once he returned, they served a warrant on him and his father, went into the home and questioned both of them. Kegan was brought down to the station, was given a polygraph, in which they asked him questions about the Delphi murders. It's rumored to have come out inconclusive. It doesn't say it in the affidavit, but I've spoken to several people who have said that it was an inconclusive test. For some reason, he was released, and Indiana State Police did not step in until 2020 to arrest him.
Why is that? I mean, now, Matt, when they searched the home, because you know more about this than I do, most people do. He has several phones. Is that correct?
He had probably 4 or 5 of them.
Okay, so let me cut you off for just a minute. So, like, if I don't know how they do it in Canada, but like here, if I have a phone, usually what I do is I trade it in because I get a big discount towards my next phone. And so that almost, unless they're burner phones he was buying, but if not, that's real suspicious, man. I mean, it's like, I don't want anybody to unlock what's on this phone or to ever find out what was on the phone.
Even more suspicious was that in the affidavit, it talks about how on February 23rd, some of the devices were being deleted and sold.
Oh.
So this is 2 days before the warrant was even served. So they were already, he was already trying to kind of conceal things even then. So I'm sure that he was catching wind that something was coming. When they got there, I believe that he had 3 or 4 of the phones on him. One of them was still missing and unaccounted for. He said that it was lost. That was turned in about a week later, and on that, everything was deleted, all the social media, all the information. And I believe, even though we don't have any confirmation of this, that is probably the device that led them to understanding that might have been the device that was speaking to the girls previous to that.
Now, all these phones were found during the initial search. Is that correct?
They were known because they found the profile. And I think when they do a reverse lookup on the profile itself, they can see all the different devices logging into this.
Okay.
A lot of people have kind of speculated that it was going, to all these different places. Understand that all the devices were accounted for. All the devices that he sold that were logged into that profile, police also found them. They were sold to his friends for cheap. And everything was accounted for in the end.
Can you, Okay, so I know, like on my computer system, if I was searching for how to kill somebody or whatever, even if I wipe that, they have forensic equipment that can take that off a computer. Can they do the same thing on a telephone, or is that different?
They can. One of the major problems is with Apple. Apple, once a phone's been cleared, there seems to be a real difficulty with law enforcement being able to acquire the information. Apple's also not very cooperative with law enforcement, especially in cases like this.
Sorry.
And so often what ends up happening is these predators know this, and they get those kind of phones. And generally that leads to complications later on for law enforcement.
So, I mean, even a big company like Apple, they don't have to comply with law enforcement. I mean, if I'm saying like, hey, I'm looking at this guy for a murder, a homicide, I need these records, they can still say, sorry, guys.
They have privacy policies that are in place that protect them from having to dispense information about their private customers. And that's probably because they're a company that is coming out of the United States, and so they don't, even though they're actively selling the most products possibly in North America, they don't necessarily have to abide by North American laws. So
that's horrible, though. I mean,
it is horrible.
I mean, if I owned a company and there was 2 young girls murdered, I would be more than happy to go, hey, we'll get that information for you.
Especially if it was somebody that, like, has this guy been convicted? I guess I should ask, of anything ever?
Yeah,
he does. He definitely does have a criminal past.
I mean, like, is he a felon? Do you know? Do we know this?
He brags that he is, but I'm not 100% on his previous criminal record. It's nothing overly significant. Maybe like types of harassment which are bad in themselves, but it's nothing related to the child porn stuff.
Okay.
So why so? I mean, unless I misunderstood you, they raided the home, 2 weeks after the deaths of Libby and Abby? Is that correct?
Yeah, February 25th, 2017.
And they found these phones.
Yep.
Right. Why so long for an arrest for child porn? I mean, I think even within, I don't know how that works, but even a month or two, you think you'd be able to get that information off enough and that's what he's under arrest for, and for all this child pornography.
Right. Well, I think the thing is, if you look at his current charges right now, they're all predated to the February 25th date now. So there's something.
Oh, gotcha.
There's something that we don't understand going on with this investigation that led police to the understanding that he wasn't necessarily telling the truth, but they couldn't prove it, and so
go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you remember when we did the Evansdale episode, and I talked to my FBI friend, and he was unfamiliar, believe it or not, with the Delphi case.
Right.
But I had suspected, I was like, dude, they had to be catfish. Remember, they had to be catfish. And he said, man, like combing through that information can be so daunting to try to trace back on the internet and phones. So do you think, is that what you think it was? It was just so complex that they were trying to build it?
Yeah, I think that this case was complicated early on because of the response that Carroll County made to the search for the girls. When they went missing on the 13th, people were not instantly going down the dark road that things would lead. And
right.
And so they weren't taking it as seriously as they should have. And in the end, it contaminated the scene, and it kind of neutralized some of the abilities that law enforcement have to kind of go after these type of people.
Well, you see it all the time where they're like, we got to get this right. Like, we got to be patient. So you feel like they, I mean, we all know, like, and we talked about this even on our last episode, that for a small town, maybe, and we talked about it with you, Matt, previously, reacting to this, they probably effed up pretty bad. Right.
Yeah.
And so do you think that it's a case where in hindsight, they look back and they're like, shit, we really effed up. So now we got to get this part right and come through all these. Yep.
Yeah. I think that when it comes to Carroll County Sheriff's Department, there were some decisions that were made that night that in hindsight they regret. There are decisions that were made by the Delphi Fire Department and the volunteers there that night that they probably regret a lot of that. Allowing civilians essentially to contaminate what they would learn would be a crime scene, for nearly 12 hours. It further complicated things.
For sure.
So.
Ooh.
So
And now here we are.
and I don't want to get into. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to overstep bounds or anything. But you and I, we've talked about the corruption that we thought was in Carroll County.
Yep.
Do you think, Matt, that they're maybe covering something up for some reason? I mean,
I go back and forth on that. I don't really understand the logic of them having all the answers and not acting on any of them. It seems a little bit irregular to me. And given some of the historical issues with the county, being caught in shady deals and things, and kind of having the prosecutor sweep it under the rug, it makes me very suspicious that this has something to do with at least the issues with the investigation in the beginning.
mm-hmm.
And that to prevent sort of a negligence lawsuit, they're potentially trying to kind of make this look different than what it is, because it seems like this is a very simple case, and it should be very easy for them to, especially now knowing that since the very beginning they've identified this. They didn't release the images of the man in the catfish out of fear that he was an innocent party, so they released the sketch instead. And I just think that later on, once they identified him, they found the lies of Mr. Kline and went and took care of him.
And you said the Anthony Schatz profile, he had created that profile, you said, I guess, a few months, several months, maybe even before the murders. Is that correct?
I would say probably 6-8 months before. He was kind of accessing it in 2016, and it just progressively got worse. But apparently there have been a number of people, of girls who at that time were underage, who were being harassed by Kline on a regular basis, asked for nudes and things like that. And these were all Liberty's age, younger. Even in the affidavit, it says that some of the girls were as young as 3 years old.
Oh my God!
This guy's a monster, and it makes no sense that law enforcement would have allowed him to sit out there for 3 years unless there were complications.
He needs to be castrated.
Do you think that they were sitting on him during that time?
Yeah, I think that what kind of didn't make sense with law enforcement through this whole thing is that they just their unwillingness to release information. It really didn't make sense. Their failure to release a profile that the FBI did early on. All of these things kind of stood out to me. But now that we know that since the very beginning, they have the suspect, there's no need for a profile. And there's no need for all this other stuff. So,
So do you think that having the feds, because let me rephrase this. We talked a lot about checks and balances in our previous episodes with Matt, right?
Right.
So do you think in the end, if this proves to be the point, like if this is our guy, in that scenario, do you believe that it was successful, the checks and balances does that make sense? Especially if Carroll County is held accountable at some point?
I think that in the end, it's going to humiliate a lot of people who were up on a high horse at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in the end, the Indiana State Police and the feds releasing the information about Kline tells me that they're a lot further in this case than they were in the beginning. And that's why this information's coming out. They had it narrowed down weeks into the investigation, and now something has changed to a point where they are putting pressure on that household to do the right thing. And so that's really what this is. We're witnessing them admitting and zeroing in not on the sketch, not on necessarily the image of the man on the bridge anymore,
Right.
but now they're kind of releasing this name and this image, and we're seeing the starts of where this crime originates.
Man, go ahead.
Let's talk about Leaker now. I mean, that's kind of we got kind of have a whole new light on maybe what we thought was just BS.
Yep.
Because some of the things he's saying kind of sound real similar to this Kline character and some of the things that are going on. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit? What's your thoughts on that, Matt?
Well, Leaker was a person that showed up in some groups in February of 2021. It was after the HLN broadcast. They were in their initial posts. They seemed upset with HLN that information was not released, that they wanted released.
Right.
This to me sort of indicates that this person has some kind of a direct relationship with that show.
Yeah.
That this person was privy to information based on some form of a journalistic sense.
Oh, wow. That I haven't heard.
Wow.
And that they wanted to get this information out there. Unfortunately, trolls quickly made it, sort of doubted the authenticity of the claims by sort of taking over the moniker and making claims that contradicted things that they said in the past. And we as a group and that hive mentality, that hive mind sort of followed suit and we forgot about this guy.
Tribalism, man.
But after Kline, after that information kind of came out, looking over the Leaker comments, they all start to fit into place. Some of the claims that this individual made about the second sketch being affiliated with the catfish and the Snapchat profile that Liberty was communicating with, the inconclusive lie detector tests, some of the information about the individual living nearby and other things, it just starts to add up. And, there are other things that they also say that you have to wonder if that's true as well. So.
And you said, okay, so Leaker, how long? Because if I remember you saying recently, I think it was you who said you thought that first day was the Leaker. Everything after that was imposters. Is that?
Yeah, I think there were a lot of imposters that came. And so unfortunately, you have, that initial night, it was so well choreographed. There were multiple people that were a part of this. It's not just one individual. It was several individuals. Obviously I have my thoughts on who I think it is, but it's not something that I know for sure. But I think that they had the good intentions, or they had good intentions behind what they did, even though it might have been premature. And I think that's why people kind of rejected it. They weren't ready for that sort of information. I admit that even I thought the second sketch being a Snapchat profile image made little sense.
Yeah,
but
me too.
Given the fact that law enforcement had already identified who they believe is the killer, whether that's Kline or someone in the household, I think it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I do too. We have a question from Sandra. It says, Matt, and you probably can read it there, I guess. Matt, given the post by Leaker, do you think that Kline was part of the search on the 13th?
Well, one thing that we have images on his profile, or we used to before they were scrubbed, showing him going to Las Vegas on a plane and showing him driving around. Supposedly got a job there on the very day that the girls were killed and this and that. There's another individual in the household, however, where you don't get the same stuff. And I have a tendency to kind of wonder if he's more a part of the alibi than he is the individual who was on the search. That's just my opinion. But yeah.
Right. And we're still afraid. Can we because I know I think everybody knows who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've come right out and said it.
Yeah, he
I
looks
just don't
more
want
like-
to do it on your show. But
no,
if
and
you
I
would.
don't, dude, I don't care if you do, but I'm just
Okay.
saying, the father looks
Yep.
a lot more like the bridge guy. In fact, I sent you a message. I don't know if you listened to it or not. There's an interview with an individual named Dylan Howell. He was a friend of Kegan's, and he looked at the bridge and he said, "Man," he goes, "that's not Kegan." He goes, "That doesn't look anything like Kegan." So he definitely didn't think it was. And other people looked at the bridge. They said that they didn't think it was Kegan, but now the dad looks a little interesting. And again, and guys, this is all speculation. Okay.
Yep.
I'm not blaming the dad, but he's been kind of a shady character, has he not,
Yep.
Matt, in this whole thing?
He definitely has. He has a criminal past when it comes to. I believe he was convicted for harassment several times. So there are harassment charges on his record. There's domestic abuse. There's battery to women.
Wow.
This guy is not a good person, and I think that's the reason that the Indiana State Police quickly moved to redact his name from it. Not because they were trying to protect the innocent party, but because they were trying to get ahead and protect the integrity of their case. But unfortunately, because Kegan's name kind of got out there, people were already kind of putting two and two together.
Right.
So, yeah.
So may I present a scenario, if I may?
Sure.
And again, guys, don't kill me for this. I'm just saying. Let's just say, okay, that Kegan and his dad has something to do with this. Are we waiting on Kegan to flip? Are we waiting on him? I mean, because they could make a plea deal with him going, Kegan, you're looking at 40, 50 years. Now you can either give us your dad or you can spend the rest of your freaking life in prison. And I'm sure that would be something that they would do if they could get to solving this case.
Yeah, I think that there's enough evidence right now to at least scare him with the thought of being charged with this crime. It's to a point where I believe, he's using it as a bargaining chip, like a scumbag. Yep. And he's trying to lessen the 30 charges of exploitation of children and stuff that he's charged with now. Because let's face it, he's looking at double digits time.
Yeah.
And this isn't stuff that isn't proven. This is stuff that he confessed to. Confessed. And it makes you wonder, if he's admitting to all this horrible stuff and he's avoiding any culpability in this sort of crime here, how much culpability he truly has. He's kind of showing his deviant side by admitting to these horrible crimes, but kind of being diverted with this other crime, and it kind of makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable to think about, because I don't think an innocent person would act this way.
Right. Well, he's got a lawyer in his ear too.
Yeah, he does.
Right.
He does. It's the same lawyer that Ron Logan actually had. So
Really?
That's pretty interesting, but it is a small area, so it's not uncommon for several people to use the same lawyer, but still just an interesting point.
Now let's go back to the second sketch, and
Sure.
And forgive me if I'm I do my best, man.
No, it's all good.
For the people,
I was what
I was just gonna say, for the people that are new to our show, like, we're not a Delphi channel, so I don't know if you can hear me over here taking deep breaths, but this is always a super heavy topic. So
Yeah.
I know for me.
Absolutely.
So again, thank you so much. I mean, I have an 11-year-old daughter, and I got a 4-year-old, I got a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
I know Cass right now is like, stop talking about our daughters on your channel. Right? But I just thank you for coming on the show and talking about it. But if we are a little bit overwhelmed at times, it's because we're not a Delphi channel.
Right.
But we've been on this.
We're still learning.
Since day one,
And that's the reason
we're going on.
Yeah, and that's the reason I have you on, because you got the knowledge. You can update.
We consider you a subject matter expert.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
Some of you guys who are new, we spent a whole lot of time. We do true crime and we do the paranormal, so we do a little bit of both. So, and especially when Delphi, I think, was one of the first ones we covered and had Matt on the show.
We think highly of Matt.
Very highly of
Hey,
Matt.
for those of you who don't know, the only YouTube I know about is our own channel. Like I only do. So I'm learning about through you guys. So thank you so much.
Okay, so Matt, what I was getting at is, I got to say, when I saw the Anthony Shots profile, I thought that guy looks a lot like the second sketch.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna, didn't mean to cover Matt there, but yeah. So
it's crazy, man.
Now, is it possible this could be the second sketch, but at the same time, they already figured out that time though that Anthony Shots was actually Kegan Kline, correct? So this couldn't be the sketch then, right?
Yeah. My theory on that is that they had already felt that they had identified who they believe is responsible for the murders, and that even though they were deceiving the public with that sketch, they were conveying a message to the killer or
Absolutely.
those who were affiliated with the killer. And so we were kind of on a need to know basis. We didn't really understand why we were putting that image everywhere, but I think that it was a tactic by Indiana State Police to rattle the person who was out, and also to locate the individual who was on the profile. They knew he was a real person. They just could not identify the individual. And so I think that was why they did that. It was to find the person that they felt was in that Snapchat profile.
Yeah, because I mean, when they released that picture, Matt, that's the first thing I thought, that they've solved this case. That's that's Anthony Shot. That's it. That's the second guy.
Yeah.
And then finding out it's Kegan, and then trying to line him up with, does he look like the bridge guy? He looks like he's 150 pounds heavier than the bridge guy.
Yep.
And even his friend, God, what was his name? Dylan said that, he said, yeah, he goes, Kegan gained some weight. He said, but it wasn't so dramatic that, he would have been as thin as this guy that I'm looking at on the bridge.
No. I think that, at the point in 2019, they were fully aware of the profile, obviously. I think that they knew about the profile all the way back in 2017. But at some point in this investigation, they determined that either this person is involved in the murder, or he is an innocent party and his images have been used.
Right.
And so that would be why they didn't just release the image of the man. They released the sketch that they had created using one of Libby's friends identified the man in the Snapchat.
Gotcha.
And created that sketch. And so it was just a little bit easier for them to not have everybody pointing the finger at this individual while they tried to identify him.
So forgive me if I'm wrong, but after the murders, was the Anthony Shots profile, was it still up, or had been taken down, which would make him look even more guilty? But
it was still up until weeks ago, I believe.
Okay.
So. Okay.
So yeah, that's pretty. I mean, if he has something to do with it, that's pretty stupid to keep.
Exactly, and I think if we read Lee Kerr's posts, if we're going to take that stuff seriously, Lee Kerr talks about police needing to identify the individual on that profile. And that they're potentially looking for this person as the killer of the girls, but at the same time, admitting that this could just be a Snapchat image that was used to kind of lure the girls there, or was communicating with the girls up until the days, like right before they were killed. So I think that it took a little while for them to identify him. He was apparently up in Alaska. He was a police officer, and I believe his last name was Kowalski, but his life has been utterly destroyed.
Oh yeah, can you imagine?
Yeah.
There are sketches of his face all over the country, everywhere, representing this bridge guy, this murderer. And I think that over the coming weeks and months, if this continues that long, we're going to notice that they backpedal on that sketch quite a bit now. So-
That's a good point.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think they identified him probably at the end of 2019, early 2020, and that's why we see Kegan getting arrested in 2020. So it took that amount of time, 2017 till whenever they identified this Kowalski guy. Once they knew and exonerated him, they knew that Kegan had lied about something, and so they were able to get him on these other charges. So he had to have blamed this other individual and stated that that they were sharing the profile or something.
Wow.
It's the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah. So any more information? Okay, because we keep hearing about, has anyone identified the vehicle to CPS building? Was there a car there for sure? And if there was, who saw it? Has anybody looked to see if Kegan drove that kind of car, or his dad perhaps, I guess?
Supposedly, there were GPS pings that placed him there between 12 and 5 p.m. on one of the devices that was turned over to the police. Oh. So you have GPS locations. It's not precise because there's no way there that they can triangulate an exact measurement because it's a small rural community. So there's constant fluctuations between signals in communities like that. And so they can, what's that?
I got to cut you off. Maybe
Sure.
I heard you wrong. Did I hear what you said is one of the phones that was turned in was the phone, I guess Leaker had talked about it as well.
Yes.
That was pinging at that area?
Yes. Yes.
That belonged to this Kegan?
Yep.
Oh my God.
So we believe that there's a lot more to this, and a lot of sticks in the spokes of this bike. He's denying it. His alibi is checking out, and one of the devices has been identified for that. And so I think when they were asking for vehicles, I think they were looking for his vehicle, not a vehicle, but specifically looking for someone who identified vehicles in that area, because I think once they were able to kind of get the pings, they saw the exact date and timestamp that one of these phones was kind of reading to this area specifically.
That's amazing. I've not heard that.
Yeah.
Wow. That really looks bad for him.
Yep. Yeah.
So
it's the whole thing. Like, it's like what we were talking about after last week's show. It's the Delphi situation, right? It's like when you start really putting like all these pieces together, and it's been that way all along. Yeah. Although we have, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what's fueled this whole thing.
Yeah.
And just that what you just said, the revelation with the ping.
Matt, do we know that Kegan actually went to Vegas? Do we know this for sure? Has it been verified that he got a job at this casino he talks about?
I'm sure law enforcement knows whether or not he did, but we don't know that as of yet. I have a few people that are trying to look into things on a 24 hours a day. They're just looking for that specific stuff to try to break things, but we haven't as of yet been able to find anything that verifies that he was ever even in Las Vegas.
Well, you need to do, Matt, is call every casino, say you're doing a job verification on an employer getting ready to hire, right? And say, hey, have you ever had a Kegan Kline that worked, when he started, when he left? So. Yeah.
I'm sure law enforcement has done all of this, and
but we want to know. That's the thing.
I'm sure that that's one of the other sources of contention for the case is that maybe it does appear that he was supposed to leave at that point, but they can't confirm that. One of the other thing that kind of doesn't really make sense is if you're trusting what Leaker says. This individual said that the primary suspect was in the search party. And if he was out of town, then that would appear to indicate that it's someone else that's connected to him. And if that's the case, then Kegan would be the alibi for this individual. And if not, then that would indicate that Kegan lied about his alibi and is the individual that is the primary suspect. So it's really only one or the other. Either it's everything's leading into the house and not going anywhere else. They have all the devices. They know that the profile was created in the house. They know that that this individual created it. He admitted it. They know that he's luring underage girls in the same way that the girls were being spoken to in the days earlier. They know that he was deleting things from his devices days before the search warrant, and they also know that that there were several devices that were turned in at later dates that were altered and deleted. And innocent people just don't do that. Even if you're caught for these horrible crimes that you've already confessed to, why would you be deleting your phones?
Absolutely.
It just doesn't make sense unless he's involved in this. And I think that's where law enforcement are with this. There's no one else that this could be.
So do we have any proof at all? Maybe did he ever assault anybody? Has any girls come forward? Because I mean, if we get an assault charge on this guy, that means his butt goes longer, which means you're going to get easier to get that plea deal. On child porn, and realistically, Matt, 1 to 5 years, maybe something like that.
He has 30 of them, and I know, according to the affidavit, it says that he victimized 15 underagers.
Okay.
So
when you say victimized, are you talking about, is that like assaulted them, or
these charges all have to do with at least 15 victims. There are over 100 pieces of child pornography that were given to him illegally. There is also a dissemination charge that's on there, kind of indicating that he also was sending this to someone else.
Oh man.
Government.
Okay, Matt.
Government.
Matt, just call us back when you get a chance. This
is
fat. These are some things that I've not heard. I did not. The leaker talked about. Matt, if you can hear me, just call back or sign back in. Don't know what happened. Oh, there he is.
Back.
Okay, I got you.
I don't know what happened. Where was I again?
We were talking about the sex. Do we have proof of sexual assault charges? Because the thing I was afraid of. Because I know how the law is. I mean, even on rape, you might do 5-10 years. And if you have good behavior, you might be out in 4. With child pornography, without an assault charge, they should throw these guys away forever. But realistically, 1 to 5 years maybe with child porn.
Do we all know that the law does what the law wants in America?
Well, that's true. And it is different in some places.
And if the law realizes that they can hold somebody accountable and use it as a bargaining chip, then the government will do it.
I guess what I was
saying.
What I was saying, Matt, is I thought maybe, and you kind of confirmed that if we get a lot of sexual assaults, they're probably thinking the more evidence we can get on this guy, the longer we can keep, and the better chance we have a plea deal. If we go, hey, you got life now. So now you got life,
man. And this is where it becomes interesting. And I think
because he's a young man, in 20 years he could be out.
This is where it becomes, because as you know, I love law movies are my favorite, right? You can't handle the truth.
Yeah.
But in a lot of these right? In a lot of these
was that necessary?
Sorry, but in a lot of these cases it becomes one of those things where you don't want to give him too many years, because then why is he going to flip on his dad then, right? And you also but hang on one second. But you also want to make it enough to where he's like, okay, I 20 years, dude, I can live with that. It definitely wasn't. Does that make sense? To flip on your blood and what I'm saying? That's especially your dad or
well, that's gonna the thing is, even you take abusive children who were abused, they still love their parents usually.
Yes.
They still have that. I want to protect my parent, even though they were abused.
Right.
So to get someone to flip like that, I think we just pissed Matt off. He just left.
He's like, I'm out of here.
I'm done with this.
And the reason I bring it up is because of the timeline, though, because one of the things that we're all struggling with is dude, this is taking forever. But if you look at it from a legal, even a government standpoint, listen, big ships turn slow, right? Big ships turn slow. So this has become a huge ship, and they have to turn it slow and do it right. So that could be, in regards to the timeline, it's a game of back and forth between the state and this attorney that he has, because that's what I mentioned earlier. He's got a lawyer in his ear. I mean, this 27-year-old guy is not sitting in there negotiating with people that do this for a freaking living. I mean, we're all true crime fans here, right? We've seen the shows.
Yeah.
So it's a process. And so hey, I love that drawing, by the way.
That was got a ghost behind him.
He's got a ghost behind him.
So
Does that make sense of why I would bring that up?
Is
though?
that Tobe Lebensee picture behind you? Is that?
He's got to put his headphones on.
What's that?
Is that Tobe Lebensee behind you? Or
Stop
is that
law
supposed-
enforcement abuses. Yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, okay. So do you get my point? Why I would bring this up?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
according to the timeline, because it's something that we've all listen. I'm an idiot when it comes to this stuff, dude. I say this every
Would
time.
you die for your father if he was a murderer?
Well, no, I'm not.
But I mean, but I'm saying there is that level of commitment to
For sure.
that I would go to prison so my dad doesn't
Yeah.
have to go to prison.
Right. But also at the same time, they're dealing with somebody that's a psychopath and is
Absolutely.
also selfish, right? And so it's not as easy as it would be for like, or difficult. I'm trying to say it's complicated. Like we're trying to talk to this guy that obviously is not in his right mind. I mean, this dynamic could be very, very, I mean, you got to peel back the onion, dude.
Yeah.
If this is a dad-son situation, there's a lot going on there.
Matt, did you listen to that interview? I mean, and if you didn't, that's fine. That interview I sent of his friend Dylan Howe.
I listened to it a little bit. And
Yeah,
I've had a couple people also send me information about that. It was.
Yeah, he was just saying that never in a million years he would have thought Kegan, and he called him Kegan. I don't know if that's his real name or not, but he said
Maybe it is.
He said Kegan, not a tough guy, man. He's a softy. He wouldn't hurt. He didn't seem like he doesn't like to fight. But he said now if you take a smaller person or a girl, that might be different. But it's the same old story, Matt. Ted Bundy was charming, a wonderful, handsome guy, and I'm hearing the same with these people.
Signs of a psychopath.
Some of these people who know Kegan and say this guy's a sweetheart, man. He was a little odd, but
there are countless women though who have began to come out. Apparently, when they released this Anthony Shots profile, over 500 people came forward.
Jesus, that's not surprising.
Saying that they were contacted by this creep, and a lot of them, even in high school, they thought he was harmless. He was just a pervert, and he was always kind of asking people for sex photos. And you look into his history, and it was always there. Whether or not he's a sweetheart or a teddy bear about other things. Starts to kind of vanish in hindsight with a lot of these psychopaths who kind of flirt with their ideations that are plaguing them in their head, and
yeah.
Well, is it not true too though? Like me and my dad were just talking about this. It's funny because we were complaining about how my mom's turning into her parents, and then I was like called out my dad and I was like, dude, you're like, to be honest, Dad, I was like, you're turning into Mimi. Right. And I'm like, so you kind of like at times you take on like these traits to the extreme of your parents. Right. Like I see, and so, then put it in is it Kegan? Is that how you say his damn name?
I don't know. Do you know, Matt?
Could be. I have no idea.
Dylan
I
calls
call
him Kegan.
Okay, so regardless, but so again, peeling back the onion, when you look at his dad's history, right? Was you saying earlier his dad has a pretty bad history, right? Of violence
in himself, yeah.
So I mean, this guy could have very well just honed in on that. We become sometimes the extremes of our parents, right?
Now I will say too, Matt, I don't know, the same podcast I sent you, they also talked to a girl who was catfished by Kegan and then actually did meet up with him, but she had brought one of her girlfriends with her. And she said Kegan became furious, outraged. He said, and again, I don't know this girl, and it almost sounded like it was, I don't want to say made up, but it was, she's saying like, yeah, man, he said, I should cut your head off for bringing someone else here, and just turned on her big time. But then after she blocked him, and then I guess he apologized, said, I'm so sorry. But he did. I mean, if she's telling the truth, this guy obviously
Well, that's another psychopathic
did
trait,
not
though.
have good intentions
It
and
is.
was mad because she was
Yeah.
by herself.
Well, have you ever, again, true crime fans, have you guys ever seen Evil Lives Here on the ID channel? It's where people grew
Yeah.
up. Yeah. And so, but a lot of times these people who grew up with somebody that's done something heinous, like you said earlier, like a mom or something, is still like, oh my God, like they apologize. They kept, every time that they would do something crazy when they were a kid, they would apologize. I would be like, oh, it's okay. Right. So these guys
Yeah.
get almost callous to being able to just, you know,
Yeah.
fish out there. So,
Well, and a lot of them, they're chameleons. So they surround themselves with individuals, and they kind of carry their traits. They learn the weaknesses of the individuals around
Right.
them, and they kind of prey on those things. It's a sociopathic, psychopathic trait, and you know, they have unrational beliefs, grandiose beliefs about themselves, and that they're going to try to change, that this would be the last time. And
right. Or the flip side of that is, you know, and I hate to use the word success, but
Yep.
they become successful. And we all know, like as a musician or as an athlete or whatever, you know, as you become successful, you want it more. You want to continue to master it. And so,
and that's a destructive force, you know, for a lot of people.
Well, when you look at this guy having 30 people or 30 charges or something, that almost seems like somebody that is like, you know, doesn't want to quit at all. They're like, hell, I'm good at this. I'm successful.
I don't think he could.
I don't think he could either.
I think it's a compulsion.
I do too.
Right.
Someone could have told him, you know, if you do this again, this is going to cost you your life. And I think they would have done it. It's
right.
It becomes an addiction.
He still had his, am I wrong? He still had his Snapchat up.
He did.
You said until we, what? That's insane.
It was still on Snapchat and stuff.
That gives you a glimpse into the mind of a monster.
Well, it's just
right?
it's what Matt's saying.
Yeah.
You know, look, the police came to his house. They found all this stuff. He can't resist that temptation to to do this.
I'm a TV addict, as everybody's finding out right now. Who watches Catfish? Get love Neve, right? Love Catfish, dude. How many times on that show has somebody been on it twice on accident? Have you, like, a catfish will get caught and then 5 years later they'll be like, oh my God, it's the same person from 2012, right?
Are you talking about To Catch a Predator?
No, Catfish. It's on MTV.
I haven't seen that, but I have seen To Catch a Predator, and they have had times where another guy shows up again.
Right.
Oh yeah, that one guy. Oh
yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
But so I mean,
it shows you though. It's like
it's exactly what he's saying. It's a compulsion. It's a compulsion they can't stop. And like he said, even if they told him, like he said, we're going to kill you the next time it happens, he might mellow out for a month or two, but he's going to go right back at it.
Right.
You know, a lot like an alcoholic or a drug addict. It's just kind of the same thing. They can't stop.
Right.
Yeah.
And then another thing, Matt, I heard recently, and again, of course, there's all sorts of rumors and speculation going on with this case. That Kelsey was catfished by this guy as well before.
I haven't even heard
okay.
That, so
yeah, I heard that on the internet today, and I didn't even want to bring it up, but I thought maybe you had heard that. But
no,
Kegan had stalked Kelsey German for a while.
That would not surprise me. This is a very small area. So even Peru, where he's from, it's only got maybe 11, 12,000 people. So these small rural communities, they're all connected in some way or another, whether that's peripherally or related distantly. It would not surprise me if this guy had indirect contacts with other people who were affiliated with Liberty or Abby.
So you think there's a chance that this, I mean, and that's another thing that's been brought up is a pedophile ring that Kegan's a part of. And I've heard also maybe sharing that profile. I mean, but how would you share that amongst people? I guess you just give each other the password or something, perhaps. But you think the police could see different? Well, I guess you couldn't because a password's a password. So, what do you think?
I think that's how they knew when he wasn't being forthright. I think that once they learned the profile, they kind of had the back door. They could see every device that was logging into this thing. And I think that they're all accounted for and that it only leads into one house.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion, but that seems the most logical. At first I was kind of like, maybe there are several people logging into this and maybe that's what's going on. But I think given the amount of time that law enforcement has kind of sat on this, I think that it's fairly definitive at this point. If they're releasing this information, that they know it only goes one place.
Can I ask you what you think about this scenario? Because, okay, I'll just say like Russian hackers, North Korean hackers, threats from overseas, they essentially do the same thing. They're going to fish, right? They're going to find somebody, they're going to latch onto them. They're going to try to infiltrate. That's how you infiltrate, right?
Yep.
Even people that are tech savvy, these kind of guys that often do the kind of catfishing and things like that, they don't do it for sexual purposes or for violent purposes. Sometimes they do it for monetary purposes or for power purposes. So, I mean, and it's pretty much the same thing. Like the way that these things happen is essentially, it's the same process. It's the same system. So could somebody like this also have information on their phones that maybe would be incriminating to people that are involved in the investigation? Does that make sense?
I think that at the level that this investigation went with the FBI and the tens of millions of dollars they were spending on the investigation, I think at this point, law enforcement would know whether this is multiple people or coming from one set of people.
Right.
And, I'm not saying that they're not sitting on information about that, but I think it's interesting that they're not asking about the identity of the person who used the profile. They're only asking for people to step forward who were contacted by the profile itself. And I think it's because they've identified the users of the profile, if there are users at all.
Yeah.
So
what's your opinion on, I've heard also the father joining in on the search for the girls?
If that is the case, given Lee Kerr's statements, I'd be very concerned that that's the individual police are looking at. If Kegan was not in Indiana on the dates of the search, then I believe that that's who they're looking at definitively.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what I think the same thing. I don't think Kegan killed anybody. I mean, well, that we know of, but I'm talking about the girls. It's gotta be someone he knows, or why would they have him? And also, Matt, there's something else I was kind of curious about. I was so surprised when ISP released that statement. Did somebody leak that and force them to do that, or was that just on their own?
There was a rumor that was circulating that a media source came into contact with somebody and acquired some documents that kind of talk about this Anthony Schatz profile, and that they threatened the Indiana State Police with this information, that they were going to go public with it, and that the state had to get ahead of this. We've been able to acquire information that definitively proves that this is not the case. The Indiana State Police released the information of their own volition. So this is a tactical strategy. This is not them being forced to do something. And I think at that point it's pretty cut and dry that a lot of the theories that we're hearing are likely true because of that.
Yeah, an interesting question in chat. And when she says, does his voice match guides down the hill? Now, you and I both know, because I played you a sample of Kegan's voice, and it definitely was not Bridge Guy's voice. But do we have a copy somewhere out there of the father's voice, what it may sound like?
We are currently working on that. And hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we can acquire something. Apparently there was a video that had the father speaking. It's been since removed now, rather suspiciously. And we're trying to obtain some of this information. When we do, we'll let everybody know what's going on.
Now, where was this source at? Was this like a Facebook video? Was it?
Yeah, I believe that it was on Facebook originally. He likes to go to like stock car races, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see him in photos with Dave Darland, who is American Hot Rod Association, like a champion. So he's befriending some fairly famous people as well. And you'll notice personal pictures with Dave Darland. He does look a little bit tall for the images of the bridge guy, but I believe that there are a lot of factors at play with that bridge image that kind of deceive us into believing that he's shorter than what he really is. And I have deep concerns for the father being the individual that we're looking at.
Yeah, when you and Kate went out to the bridge, I got to ask you this first of all.
Sure.
How scary was it, you and Kate crossing this bridge? Dude, I would have peed my pants. It's mortifying, and it's very decrepit, and you really can't get an understanding of how horrifying it is until you're there physically seeing it. It's maybe as wide as a sidewalk, so it's not. It looks huge on like you got
nowhere near as wide as those images kind of portray it as. And when you're out there and you're seeing, gaps as large as your feet, you could fall through and plummet to your death. Easily.
I saw when you guys were walking, I've never seen this. There was like places where 2 or 3 of those track parts were missing.
There were parts where
Greeno
had to help us across by standing in the middle of these enormous gaps. Like we're talking, some of them were 3 and 4 feet wide. Just absolutely terrifying, and that water is fairly shallow below. So, even if you did fall 70 feet into water, you'd be injured or deceased at that point anyways. So there's really not much cushion for, you to make a mistake on that. So
now, didn't you guys say also that once you get kind of to the end of the bridge, it's still like 50 feet drop? Is that correct on the end of it?
I would say that even, as you get towards the southeast end, where it kind of appears like it meets the land, you're still a good 30 to 40 feet up. So, with some of those gaps, back in the day, the ties did not meet. It wasn't the way it is now. These were, some of the ties were actually old trees, and you could see that.
Right.
Can I just point something out though?
Sure.
Because intent is always a big word we use in our crime, right? Like the intent of something.
Yep.
Knowing what we know, you having been at that bridge is something we've talked about in the past. The bridge and how decrepit it is, doesn't that show us intent at such a high level by both parties? The girls crossing the bridge and the killer or the person involved in the killing. Does that make sense? Yeah, that shows like massive, like a sense of urgency. Like, there's something I want to get across the bridge for. Or
number one, he has no fear of heights. Or number 2, he's crossed that bridge several times in the past.
Right. But we're talking about young girls. But I'm not saying that they're.
I would have to crawl. I would be crawling across the bridge.
You'd be doing the stand by me.
I would.
Train. Yeah.
You could make fun of me all you wanted to.
Me too. But I'm just pointing out that because we talk about it a lot and like the true crime stuff is like intent or impulsive act, which has been something that a lot of people have debated about in this case for a long time. Like, was it a crime of opportunity? Was it a crime? Was it pre-planned?
Yeah.
The fact, the bridge in itself being so dangerous and high and stuff, to me, it just points to the fact that, that catfishing scenario all day.
Man, do you think that guy had been across this bridge before? Do you think he was just one of those adventurous guys like, I'm not afraid of heights?
100%. There's no doubt about it.
And maybe even have to plot that out a bit because when you go down the hill, I mean, you kind of have to know where I've never been there, but just from the videos I've seen, that you kind of got to know your way around there a little bit and know how you're going to get out of there after you murder these 2 poor girls. Right?
Yeah.
I think he arrived before the girls were there. I don't necessarily believe that he told them to be there, but I think that he was aware by social media posts that they were going to be at the bridge that day.
So they did post that on Facebook that they were going.
That's what I heard. Yep. That's
Okay.
what I heard, that they were communicating at least with individuals that this Anthony Shots profile was affiliated with, that he would have had access to things like that. And I think he arrived at around 12 o'clock. He went down probably to the trail intersection where the 501 and the 505 meet. He probably went down the 505 to kind of get away from the area where a lot of people frequent. And he would have went off the trail and down underneath the bridge to the right, where the northwest side of the bridge starts. And so being down on this area, it goes down really low. There's a steep drop. But if he took the trail off, he would have been down below, and he would have had a perfect ability at watching people going out onto the bridge. And I think he saw opportunity and climbed up, and that's why no one saw him walking the trails towards the mouth of the bridge when the girls went on there, because I think he was already kind of around the bridge at this point.
Right. And what are your thoughts about, didn't someone say, excuse me, that they saw him sitting on that bench as you come into the trails?
I have heard that that's one of the theories that people have, and being there, you kind of get a good sense of why people believe that way. It's kind of like a trap house. When you're there, you're sitting on the bench, and you have the trail entrance from the Mears area, and you have the trail going to your left and your right. So he would have had access to all sides of the bridge. He would have been able to see the trails from every angle. And someone who frequents that area would have known that it's 501 steps for the 501 and 505 steps for the 505. They would have mapped it out and been able to know that he has a few minutes to do this before this person gets up to a certain point. It would have been easy for him to map it out.
So explain for me one thing I've never understood exactly, because I've never been there, and I would love to go just to see what it really looks like. Because I remember you saying it really changed your perspective on things actually being out there. So we got these two trails. Do both the trails lead to the bridge, or is it how does that work? Or do they run into each other or something, or?
They run parallel to one another, and at a certain point, the 505 kind of fades into kind of bush area on the right side of the bridge.
Okay.
And so if you go off the trail, it's fairly open, especially when the leaves have fallen off the trees. Some of the shrubbery kind of dies off, so there are twigs and stuff everywhere, but it would be very easy for him to follow along kind of behind and be able to watch someone
still see through that other side.
Absolutely. He would have seen the path. And actually, when Derek was looking for the girls, Derek was walking up the 505 at that point, and it's believed that the suspect likely walked up the 501 at this point. Just mere feet away from Libby's father as he was searching for her. So it just kind of shows how close these trails are. And
so if I'm understanding right, you're actually saying, like, as I'm walking down this trail, I can turn behind me to see if anyone's coming. Is that correct? Like,
yes.
So I could quickly approach the girls and still kind of know, hey, I've got some time here because there's no one behind me.
And a person who has crossed the bridge, like we were there with Greeno. Greeno's done it 1,000 times, and he knows
that bridge.
It took him 11 seconds to get from the point where the bridge guy was to where the girls would have been standing.
It would took me 2 hours.
It took me 20 seconds.
That's pretty fast.
I felt that I was walking very fast at that point, but it only took him 11. And it probably only would have taken him maybe 3.5 minutes to cross the entirety of the bridge. So
the whole bridge?
It probably took us about 10 minutes to get across because we were very nervous.
But you think about you can actually cross that bridge within 3.5 minutes?
3.5 to 5 minutes, I would say.
Wow.
If
'Cause
if
I
you're
don't know
very
where I
very,
thought I heard 20 minutes. I thought I heard someone say 20 minutes it takes to get across it. But it
it's
might
actually
be,
not as
if
long
I
as
was
you think it's
crossing it,
going
it
to
would
be.
take
Right.
an hour.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
853 feet long. So
Okay.
800 feet long is not a significant stretch, and it's just the height of the bridge and other factors that kind of make it difficult.
Now the McCains
So
say that they saw the bridge guy. Is that confirmed or is that a rumor?
I don't believe that any witnesses saw him.
Okay.
I think in the early days of the investigation, there were a lot of people that were confused and were kind of naming people that they saw that maybe stood out to them. And I think they misidentified some individuals because of statements by other people who also misidentified others. So once they followed those leads, they ended up determining, within the months after that they didn't really lead anywhere.
Yeah. And there's always those people who like to go, "Oh, I saw that guy. I saw that guy."
Mhm.
There's always those people.
The
who
hive
like
mind
it-
mentality, right?
Yes, who
And
like to get
people were
involved.
afraid, and they thought, someone did this horrible crime, and if you do a little research on the human ability to recollect things,
Absolutely.
a lot of that is totally devoid of any science when we're trying to recollect things. Our memory is built on tiny little bits and pieces and things that we fill in the gap.
Right.
It's a form of apophenia, and we're looking for patterns and things that make no sense, and we create those patterns
Right.
when there are gaps.
So now I know we talked about this on earlier shows, but do you think this was a planned murder? Do you think this is maybe just, I'm going to abduct these girls, take them somewhere, have my way with them, but things got out of hand. They started running. He didn't know what to do. He panics. He kills them both. What's your thoughts on that?
I think that whoever this individual was had dark thoughts with what he was going to do to whoever it was. One thing that kind of stands out to me is that he brought that weapon. It kind of seems very premeditated. We know by unnamed sources that there was potential that a firearm was brought to coerce the girls down the hill. All of these things sort of indicate a premeditation to me, and I'm not 100% convinced that he set out to intend to murder them.
Yep.
But something happened that caused him to have to act, and he did. And unfortunately, those girls, as horrible as this is, they stuck together all the way to the end, and as a young girl would, they would stick with their best friend.
Right,
They
right.
wouldn't let her leave her behind, and no one's blaming her for doing that. She was young, but he used that as a tactic to corral them, and unfortunately, this ended bad.
Do you think he possibly, as horrible as it sounds, he may have grabbed one of the girls, put the gun to the head, and said, "Come," after he got him down the hill, so that because if you think about it, two girls, if he's not done, they could have ran. And I'm not. Please, guys, don't bash me for saying this. They could have ran, but I'm just saying, is it possible he had the gun to one of their heads and said, "Follow me, and if you do anything, I'm going to pull the trigger."
I think it's extremely likely that that's what happened at some point. If we go by the statements that the leaker said in the beginning of the year, he said that the guy created a ruse, that they were trespassing, that he was law enforcement, that they were under arrest. All of that appears to show premeditation as well. The bringing of cuffs, the bringing of gags, the fact that he's bringing a hunting knife with him, the fact that there's a firearm in his pocket. Some people kind of forget that the crime was committed when he coerced them down the hill under false pretenses. When he posed as a law enforcement officer, if that happened. So right there, the crime had already started all of that indicates premeditation to do whatever was going to happen. And I think at some point the girls realized something doesn't feel right here.
Absolutely.
They knew at the south end of the bridge that this man was odd or off. Something was going on that they weren't privy to. And I think when he got to the edge, their fears weren't as realized as they originally thought, because if he posed as law enforcement, they just thought they were in trouble originally.
Right. So it goes.
Yeah, the thing with me, I'm sorry, did you have something to say?
I was just gonna say it kind of goes back to the mind of a psychopath, and it's something we talked about on the previous episodes about how it's like so opportunistic, right? Like as this evolves, if it was a case of catfishing, I mean, he's literally the bridge guy is like the polar opposite of the person that he was portraying, right? And so when as a victim, if I was to look at that person walking across the bridge, obviously it's not the person I've been talking to, so it would almost eliminate my flight reaction, right? Because I'd be like, well, I'm not here to meet. And so this guy obviously that's even more premeditated. Does that make sense?
But does that go along with the cat? I mean,
that's what I'm saying is like, it's the exact opposite. So the girls would be a lot less likely to run, because they'd be like, why is that dude walking out here? Wait, we got to meet this guy on the other side. Let's just like let him pass or whatever. And then obviously,
and when you're out on the bridge, you realize why they went to the southeast side. I don't think that they at first intended to go all the way to the other side, but I think they were midway across. I think soon after the second photo where Libby takes the photo of Abby, the individual sets out onto the bridge. And I think, when you're out there and you see how narrow it truly is, you start to get this impending doom feeling as this person approaches, because it's like I'm afraid to walk around him on this death trap.
Right.
So, he pushed them all the way to the end of the bridge and continued to walk to them.
Right.
And unfortunately.
That's we talked about, like we were calling it a kill spot recently. I'm Army guy, right? So that's completely an Army tactic that you would use.
This was absolutely a trap.
It's an ambush. It's basically an ambush.
Right. I mean, we used to take this class called Dirt at West Point, and it's funny because we're like, oh god damn, I gotta go to Dirt. And why are we taking Dirt? Why dirt? And what it was completely geography, right? It was learning how to read maps and see where railroads were and dips and gullies and rivers and places where you could attack. And so that's why this case has always been so crazy to me, because in my mind, the whole time I've always thought, man, that was like the perfect execution of an ambush. Like it really was.
Yeah.
That's why I never thought could have been something that wasn't planned.
So Matt, do you think one of the things that it's always puzzled me, and I've talked with you about this before, is why cross the creek? Why the thing is, it's like, even as a killer, he doesn't want to get cold. He doesn't want to walk through there and get cold. And so I would think his kill spot would have been right before the creek. And that kind of what makes me think is maybe they took off running, and that's why he had to kill them.
When you're there, you notice a few things about the creek and how the creek appears. The creek appears very shallow in numerous spots. It seems like whatever set them off happened right below the bridge. That at some point the girls thought the only way that I can survive is by running. So he shows himself and they take off. Whether or not they were confined or not, we don't know. But it makes sense that they would run towards the north end of the bridge. And that's exactly where they tried to cross, back to the other side. And they would have followed the creek all the way around that bend, and he would have followed them, unfortunately, and caught up with them as they were midway through the water. And I think that's where a lot of the scuffle happened. That's why Liberty's shoe is at the bottom of the hill, and then another was found near the spot where they were crossing.
Right.
Her clothing was was strewn all over the place because he was trying to get control of this situation that was out of control.
Yes.
And
Right.
he knew that people were in the direction they were running.
Mm.
What
And,
an incredible risk to take. I mean, at that place. I mean, because there's still.
I agree.
God. I mean, because that's another thing I don't understand is if he was, I don't know how, we don't know how he killed the girls. Did he hit them over the head? Did he stab them?
Right.
You would have thought you would have heard just death curdling screams in that area.
But when else would he do it though? You know what I'm saying? If it is this elderly guy, this older gentleman, it would have had to be at a time when the kids were able to go to the park, right?
Yeah.
Like, and they happened to be out of school that day. So it almost, it's sickening, but it's like he was willing to take that risk. That's even more crazy. That's insane.
Yes.
Right.
And he was fully aware of the repercussions of this. If there is premeditation, there was also contemplation. And I think that he knew going down there that there were going to be a number of kids. I'm not saying that he had identified Libby as his target or Abby as his target before he went there, but he saw opportunity. And, as they crossed, he incapacitated one of them. And the other was fighting back. And, I think things just got so out of control and so out of his hands that he had to quickly act. And unfortunately, it costed the girls their life. But before then, she got images and video of him. And that could have to do with why he chased them in the first place.
True.
His awareness that
yeah.
maybe she had recorded him.
That's a good
give me
point.
the phone, and she threw it somewhere.
Right.
And he couldn't find it, and it was just a mess, And oftentimes these perpetrators, they don't think things through. They act impulsively, and they just don't think about the repercussions of their acts or what's going to happen after they perform them. And this seems like an example of that.
What about the whole?
There's only so many things you can control too. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like you never know how somebody's going to react for one thing.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, but that's why in the previous shows, we've always talked about, it's like, I couldn't wrap my head around this person not being prepared and doing it during that time.
Yeah.
Like for me, it was always that the fact that they were willing to do it at that time was cause for them being so prepared. Right. So like, I just think it's
well, he's a risk taker. And what's really concerning about a risk taker is that typically means that this person is at a stage in his criminal life that he has done this several times before.
Right.
There of course there always is a first time, but typically they're a lot more cautious or a lot more messy than the way this was. This guy thought like a small towner, but had, big city thoughts about the way he was dealing with the aftermath and
if he, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
But if he was local, isn't that even taking more of a risk? Like, oh crap, these people might see me. They may know me. Was there a disguise involved? I mean, maybe that's why it looks like he has a scarf or something. I don't know what that is, Matt, but do you think
it was?
Do you think he tried to disguise himself? Because if he's local, he's really taking a big chance of going, oh, I saw Joe Blow out there,
right. Well, here's the thing, I've grown up in a fairly small city my whole life, about 40,000 people. It's not enormous by any means. And I see people that I don't recognize every single second of every day. These are people that I've lived there for 40 years. So I just think that we as human beings have a tendency to kind of overlook memories and recognizing people.
That's true.
And
that's
so
true.
the filling in the gaps kind of prevents us from really remembering faces unless we truly recognize somebody. And so I think it's just a case of that, maybe. But,
now, do you think he ever left anything at the scene of the crime? A weapon? I mean, a hat? Something?
well, yeah, there's there are rumors, and I can't really explain how I know this, but there were items, or at least an item, that was left at the scene. It was not a weapon, but it was covered in blood, and it was an item that was belonging to the killer.
Okay.
There are witness statements of someone finding an item and turning it over to the task force at the beginning of March of 2017. And so maybe this is how they got DNA from the individual or something like that. It might have been on the clothing. But yeah, he definitely left something.
Well, I'll tell you one thing he left.
What?
A digital footprint.
We definitely did.
Yeah,
We definitely left
absolutely.
that.
That's like.
Well, I'm still blown
dude,
away that one of the phones were pinging.
Well, here's the
Kegan.
thing. We can talk about how prepared he was. Okay, we can talk about all of that, but one thing he wasn't very prepared for was his digital footprint. I mean,
Yeah,
dude, having all the phones and
he's on video.
Well,
he's on also. There's so much.
Right. And so, but I was going to ask you, Matt, do you think it's possible that he actually had more? Well, I mean, I know the answer to this question because you are a fan of catfish. Most of these people have multiple accounts. Like some of them have like an entire family of catfish accounts, right?
Yeah.
And they can be men and women, and they'll use them to manipulate the same person, right? Yeah. And so, do you think that might be the case in this? I
think it's very likely that he had more than one account, and that he was manipulating people using all of these
in that way.
Even messaging himself, likely. These people statistically do things like that to try to deceive others. So yeah, I think it's very possible that he did that.
Okay.
So Matt, now forgive me if you answered this already, but
our minds have been blown. So yeah, forgive us.
This is really, thank you so much for coming on. I mean, this has been fantastic.
No, let me pick Keith's brain up off the ground and put it there.
No, but when they did that raid for Kegan's phones and things, what about the father? Did they get any of his phones? Did they take any of his electronic devices?
There's nothing in the affidavit about any of that, but there's a lot of stuff that was redacted. So there's really no way to know definitively.
And search warrants have to be specific.
Yes.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand how hard it is to get a search warrant for a judge to sign off on it. So you can't just speculate, well, there's a dad lives there. Well, too bad. You got evidence,
right?
Where they actually had some type of evidence that he was catfishing people to take these phones.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's surprising. Yeah, a lot of people think, oh, a judge will just sign a warrant. No, they won't.
No, if because we know that Tony's name was on the warrant itself, there's a reason that the courts would have given them permission to question and go through his items. I'm sure that they did, but because of the nature of several people living in there, I think it kind of muddied things up a little bit. Sure. If he's using a communal computer, if he's using communal internet.
Yeah.
But I think at this point they already know roughly who the person is that's hiding things and who the person is that is believed to be the primary suspect.
Well, can I just point out one thing? So, okay, quick story. Okay, hang on. A bazillion.
Yeah.
Dude, there's a bazillion question.
Just before you say anything, Garrett, I'm just going to say, I put a link down here. If you guys want to ask Matt a question, hop on it. And
thank you, Susie.
Yeah, and Susie, thank you so much for the super chat. Our big supporter there. We appreciate it. Yeah, if you want to ask Matt a question, we got a few more minutes left. I'll put it again in the link here. And all you got to do is click on that. That will bring you down into what we call the green room. And then we'll bring you on if you'd like to ask Matt. I know, Lipsha, if you're still out there, you said you had a question. You wanted to come on and ask Matt something. Well, there's your chance. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I'm not going to tell the story I was going to tell. I'll just say this. Part of my job is I have to send out emails that are convincing to people out of state. Like when we travel to, like, if I need players or something like that. Right. And
soccer.
Right. And I always say it's like really difficult because I got to put like the right thing in the subject line. Right. That way they know it's not trash. Okay. But also, dude, I'll send out like 100 of these things. And
Yeah.
nobody will ever email me back. I'll like 1 out of every 100 person will be like, hey, what do you need? And then I'll be like, okay, well, I'm not a creep. Thank you for answering my email. Right. So, but with that being said, the reason I'm saying it is because if somebody like this Kegan guy was running a catfish account for that long, and you said earlier 500 people have come forward saying that they talked to this person, right?
Yeah.
Whatever his dumb shit name was, I can't remember what was
Anthony
his
Shots.
Anthony Shots. What a douchebag! First off,
Yeah.
If 500 people came forward, that means he's fishing a lot.
Oh yeah.
So that means that there's like a ton of information to have to comb through. Am I wrong in saying that?
Nope.
Do you think that that's true? Okay.
I think he sent out an overwhelming amount of requests and would get a response maybe every once in a while.
Right.
And
cling on to it.
Yep.
God dang, dude.
Yeah. And another thing I want to ask about, do we know, I know we talked about maybe there was a staging with the bodies. Is that still in play, or did he just kill him?
I think he did.
That kind of takes away a little bit from the abduction theory that I had, because then if things got out of control, you kill them and you get the hell out of there as fast as possible. You don't take the time to drag them and impose them or whatever.
It could have been a divertive method, though. There are some interviews with law enforcement within Indiana that were involved in this case that talk about him trying to cover his tracks by making it appear as something that it wasn't, and things like that. So, that totally could just be a divertive tactic to make it appear more serial killer-like than what it truly was.
Yeah.
But we don't know.
But we do know that they did confirm there were signatures at this crime scene, correct?
Yeah.
And do we have any idea? Are we just guessing and speculating at this point, or do we have anything that leaked through what these signatures could have been?
Some of the signatures, according to Lee Kerr, were that hair was removed from each of the girls.
Okay.
That they were posed in a sexual tableau. So an interesting statement, or an interesting choice of words to describe the way they were posed. So there are several small items like that indicate this individual was trying to make it appear as something. Something to do with non-secular, something to do with the crime was non-secular, as Robert Ives stated in one of his interviews. So there's some religious aspect to it. He does not say Christian, but in that community, there's a lot of like Norse mythology, things like that, Odinism, that sort of thing. So rumor has it that it's affiliated in some way to that, but we don't know definitively about any of it other than just what Lee Kerr has stated in statements.
Wow. Okay, so you guys have about 5 minutes if you want to ask Matt something.
Questions are popping up in chat.
Okay,
show.
can you?
Kanga Blue, question for Matt. Are you of the belief that Bridge Guy is most likely Kegan's father, that he used Kegan's AS profile, car, phone to set him up for the fall, even leaving something of Kegan's at the crime scene?
Oh,
I think that's possible. I find it interesting that Kegan's been sitting in jail this long and is just kind of seemingly allowing his son to take the fall if he is guilty. So I think all of that stuff is very possible. And yes, I believe that it's either Kegan himself or it's the father.
Interesting.
It's no one else. It's leading into the house. There's no one else that this could be. Police have probably lined all of this up before they released it through the Indiana State Police website.
And this whole state, did you actually see, or where did you guys meet up at? Was it Lafayette? I think.
We went out to Lafayette and met with 5 or 6 other creators, and then we went to Delphi the next day. So.
Okay, and Kegan is, what's the town he's from again? It starts with a
he's from Peru, yeah.
Okay, and so every day, what I we've talked about there's a police car outside the home, correct? With
Yep.
surveillance, which we talked about a little bit earlier.
There are
But-
images of it, and there are other individuals that we've been in contact with that live in Peru who have said that the constant police like vehicles have been parked outside the home for about 6-7 months at this point.
Jeez.
And we're confirmed
Yeah.
that these aren't just cops stop doing traffic
These are
stops.
yes, these are marked police vehicles without lights on the top. So
Okay.
these are just vehicles where the police officer that's his whole duty is to just sit outside the home and monitor it. It could be to somewhat prevent access from outside sources from gaining access to the family if they're in danger. But it also could be to monitor individuals in the home as well.
Or both, right?
Yeah, or both. Probably both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any more? You got,
Shadowbox, I hope that answers your question, which was what do you suppose they're trying to accomplish with the stakeouts?
Hey, and shout out to Laguna, Italian Laguna.
Yeah.
We have-
went to
hey, we
Laguna.
haven't-
Hey, forget about
we
it.
haven't Matt, I think he was on the last time you were on, and we haven't seen him since.
Yeah, what the
So-
hell is that?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So I did see a question in chat here. What are your thoughts on perhaps someone using one of the nearby houses while the residents were there? Maybe someone who knew the people with the driveway who said they weren't home, or RL's property. I guess Ron Logan's property.
I think it's very possible that that whoever the perpetrator of this crime had at least somewhat of an awareness of the neighbors who were in the vicinity. But I don't think that any of the neighbors were directly involved with this individual. I just think that he was intuitive about it and was able to kind of map it out ahead of time. This might have been something that he had been doing over the course of months. Going to the bridge and frequenting the area. And so maybe he had been warned when he was on the other side to not trespass. And some of the neighbors claimed that they saw someone down on the south end of the bridge. Ron Logan actually called the police in the months before because someone was breaking into his barns and stuff out in the back. And but this sort of thing is very common out there, and it's a pretty small locale. So it's hard to say.
And you said there's not that has anything to do with the murders, but you said that there's a huge meth problem in that surrounding area.
Meth and opioid abuse.
For sure.
A lot of fentanyl stuff. It's just like
Small
it is
town.
in a lot of these small towns.
Small town
just
America, man.
kind of being overridden by addiction and things like that. So
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, which can make you want to murder if you have that in you.
Yeah.
Again, I'm a Manson expert, and Tex Watson was high as hell on meth
And
when
it can
they
also-
went in there.
It can also
Yeah.
and I'm not giving them an out or anything, but it can also preoccupy a lot of resources when it comes to policing. You know,
Mhm.
you
I
saw
agree.
that also. You saw
Yeah.
that in the Manson case as well, where they weren't linking things up because they were so busy doing crap all the time. You know, so
Yeah.
Let's see. I think there's another one. I probably should. I don't know what I'm popping up here, Matt. So hopefully it's nothing saying we hate Matt
Do you
Sullivan.
need your
It's
glasses?
okay if it is.
Matt, do you find it odd that Kegan's best friend Lance Schott's name is being used by Kegan, and this person also has a violent past? I've not heard this.
Interesting.
Well, I have heard that that one of his neighbors actually has the last name Schatz. It would not surprise me that he's not as imaginative as he appears to a lot of strangers, that he's just kind of using the names of people that are around him. Especially at his level, he's going to have to start cutting corners at some point, and I think that's kind of what is going to be his downfall, is that he's pointed too many things at himself at this point.
Yeah, he's
By
going to
using
break.
those names.
Yeah, he's going to break eventually. I
Yeah.
think so. Here's another question from Stacy B. Matt Sullivan, what are your top thoughts on the case? Theory or speculation about what happened? Well, we've been if I was Greg Hughes, I'd go, well, if you've been listening to the show, we would,
Yeah,
you moron. If you Pay attention.
Stop.
That's what Gray does. He just pay attention.
You're in timeout.
I think this guy saw opportunity that day, and he took it, and he did not realize how big of a fight was going to come from the other end. And I've spoken to the families, well, at least Becky, Patty, and that side of things. And Libby was a firecracker of a girl.
Really?
She would not have allowed her friend to be hurt, and they both were heroes. They stuck by each other all the way to the end. And I think that he went home that night feeling very, very bad about how things went.
The outcome.
Yeah. And Stacy B, I just want to say that was an impersonation of another YouTuber. I was not insulting you in any way. But we do know a YouTuber who would probably have said that and said, okay, you're off my channel. So, okay, you guys, you got about one more minute. I'm sure Matt's got other things he needs to do, but let's see. I'm looking here and dealing that.
What a fantastic show.
Yeah, this has been so
I love
much.
it. I always love it.
I
Yeah.
love,
Man,
yeah, I love when you're on.
Hey, what I was
Our shows are
telling,
good.
hey Matt, I was telling Keith last week, because it's like we do the Delphi cases on and off. Normally when we talk with you, right? I was telling Keith, it's almost like it's like the Delphi situation. You know what I'm saying? Oh wait.
Sorry.
Perfect timing, Keith.
Yeah, well, like Gray's
Jesus.
watching my show, right?
I'm sure he will now.
Yeah. Yeah, so any of the Gray, yeah, oh God, all the people who are from Gray's channel
Yeah.
go to Gray tonight and go, hey, you should check
It's
out this-
okay. It's okay. You know what?
I don't even know who Gray Hughes is. So
YouTube is a very, very hard platform to deal with.
You got a thick skin, man.
As a creator, we get destroyed by a lot of people who these keyboard heroes who like to hide behind things. And it makes us cynical and makes us not very trusting. But
for sure.
Talking to Gray outside of this stuff, he's a lot more caring and a lot more of a good individual than a lot of people give him credit for.
Yeah, I mean, when I say that, I've
It's all in
talked,
good fun.
He still
Yeah.
watches his ass.
I've talked. Well, no, I've talked to Gray outside of this,
I
and
know.
and he was nice up until I sent him this picture, and I think he called me a moron. He said because it was like, well, anybody could have those same type of jeans. I was showing that picture
Yeah,
where
the
the jeans
jeans,
look like
yeah.
the same patterns. He
Yeah,
goes,
yeah.
he goes, well, you can't tell by the fibers and this and that. And I was like, but
Yeah.
I felt like an idiot, and I never talked to him again after that. But before that, he was, I was asking about his equipment and things like that, and he was helpful and he was nice.
He's a very logical thinker.
He's very,
And,
no nonsense.
At 70,000 subscribers, he gets a lot of crap from a lot of people.
Yes.
And I think that he just the fact that he was replying to you, shows that a lot of this is a front that maybe a lot of his viewers are misunderstanding.
Yeah.
That's
No,
interesting.
and I get it. I mean, when you got 200 or 300 people in your
Keith
chat,
gets it. He just likes to make fun of him.
no, that's not true.
And it's okay. Everybody's entitled to their
I
opinion.
don't even know Gray Hughes.
No, I know. I mean, I think no. I'm just going to say, I think Gray. He has a good show. He does a lot of research, and like Matt said, he's pretty no nonsense. He doesn't like speculation. If you've got proof, we'll talk about it. But we're not going to sit here and compare this and that when you can't back it
moron.
up. You stupid
You
moron.
dumbass.
Stop it.
I don't. Okay, listen. I know Gray Hughes just from what you told me, and you're always like, "Hey, I watch his show." So, hey, but what I was saying earlier was this.
I watched him last night.
This Delphi situation. That's what it is, and I just think that so much. And you always hear this like with these cases, but legitimately, so much has been learned through this process, like of the 5 years, right?
Sure.
Like on the investigative side, man, like on the work that you've done, Matt, where you're like really digging into some of the finer details of things have just been, I think people will look back on it and be like, oh, that was a really wild case. And we really learned a lot, like as a society, even.
Yeah,
right?
I do too.
It's just unbelievable.
I have a different way of looking at things, and I've fallen into some traps, some rabbit holes that have kind of pulled me in different directions than I should have been. But I got a good team of people that are working with me now. We have about 4 or 5 different people who help me to research and look into things and kind of keep things straight so that we're not falling into those traps. You know,
Right.
I'm a writer.
But you know, man, I mean, listen, what else can we do? We have to go down a rabbit hole. We have no information from law enforcement about this case.
And are we not
all
free
we
to
can
do
do
it?
is speculate.
And we're free to do
And
it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everybody should have a freedom to talk without being
Right.
I
called
agree.
a dumbass or a moron. But I'm just
I
saying.
agree.
Had to put it in there, didn't you, Keith?
Well, I'm just I'm
just beating a dead horse.
no. Like I said, I get it.
I'm
I
just
get it, but at
kidding.
the same time, be nice.
Yeah, forget about it.
You know, be nice.
I agree, you know, but I'm going to bat for Gray because I understand the pressures that are involved with this, especially now we're about 4 times the subs that we were last time you and I talked. And
Yeah.
Hey, you want to talk about pressure? You want to talk about pressure? You get on one of our ghost shows. Okay?
Oh yeah. People want proof.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Matt, we're going to let you go, man. Thank you
It's
so
been
much.
such a pleasure, dude.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank
man.
you so much.
You look
Thanks,
great.
guys.
Matt.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Send Kate our love and hope everything's going great there. And
Send Canada love from America.
well, he's not in Canada.
I'm actually in Greensboro right now, so
yeah.
No way. I love
Yeah.
Greensboro.
so
Okay, cool.
we're gonna get married and
Really?
I'm gonna become an American and
Wait, did you? Yeah, I forgot. Matt asked for our address off the air so he could send us the invites. Didn't he?
Oh, that's
I
right.
definitely will.
That's right.
I'm not on social
there'll be
media
a lot
too
of
much.
creators there.
Okay, cool. Will you guys set that up? I'll be there.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
It's really good talking to you guys. Thanks a
be
lot.
there.
No, it's going to be one of those things where Matt's going to come on the next day and go, "Hey, I got married last night."
What the hell, Matt?
It probably will, but
Yeah. Well, Matt, thanks so
Thank
much.
you, dude.
Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate your time. Keep doing the good work, man.
Yeah.
You're one of the good
Thanks.
guys,
Keep
dude.
grinding
you
it
guys
out, man.
too. You
All right.
guys
Well,
too.
thank you so much,
See ya,
Matt.
man.
Thanks.
Oh, wait a minute. What? Was you going to say something, Pam?
No, just that we appreciate him.
Okay. Well, I'm going to get this moron
appreciate you
off the
guys, too.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, dude. See ya.
All right. Thank you so much, Matt.
See you,
Bye-bye.
bye. See you guys.
Man.
How cool.
Wow.
That's why I love having him on.
Well, it just gets better every time. That's what I love about
It
having
doesn't,
him on.
especially with this new information. It's because man, I had no idea that they found a phone that pinged that actually belonged. I heard that right?
Yeah.
That belonged to
Yeah,
this
you asked
Kegan guy.
twice.
Yeah, if I was a cop,
You're like, excuse
well,
me.
I
can you
mean,
say
the
that
thing,
again?
it completely goes against his alibi
It does.
because he said, he like Matt said, he put a picture up. Oh, I'm going to Vegas. Going to be,
But it could have been in somebody else's hands. That's where
that
it
is true.
Right? That's
Yeah,
where
yeah.
That, if you have 6 phones, if you're in cahoots with
God.
your dad, it's not out of the realm, dude.
Do you think these 6 phones? I mean, I wish Matt was still here, but
No, it's
do you
our
think
turn
these-
to speculate.
well, I agree with him. But do you think these 6 phones were these just old phones and he just bought a new one, or do you think they were all activated? I mean, can you imagine
Listen,
the cost of that?
To be a cat, true, that's true. But to be a catfish,
And
on
this
that-
guy didn't have a job, according to his
Right, yeah.
buddy, this Dylan
and
guy.
all addicts find a way, though, dude.
Huh?
Don't you watch Intervention? Again, TV junkie.
Well, and another.
all addicts find a way, dude. These on Intervention people spend like $200 a day on heroin. I'm like, wait, how? Right? If there's a will, there's a way. So for me, I'm like, it just all pointing to this massive effort to catfish.
Yeah.
On multiple devices with multiple accounts, maybe even multiple people, like you said.
Well, and again, this is very speculatory, right?
That's
But
fine.
I heard that possible what he was doing, because one of the things his buddy Dylan's like, he goes, man, he goes, Kegan was too lazy to work.
Yeah.
He said he wouldn't work. And he said, so he goes, after I found out about this, he goes, it kind of crossed my mind if maybe he was selling this child porn on the or on the dark net. He said that he knows for a fact Kegan was on the dark net all the time. And
Can I tell you another reason why I, with Matt Sullivan, was asking about the multiple accounts is because you see it a lot with like elderly people too, that all of a sudden get on social media, that get catfish, right? And a lot of times it's by like a guy acting like a woman, right? And they get
Well,
like
he
an
had
overly-
a female. He had a
and-
female
but
identity.
if you get
too.
compromising pictures and content on people,
Mhm.
I mean, blackmail is a real ass thing on all levels. If
oh,
getting-
how
I
he?
mean,
Yeah,
dude,
exactly.
so
exactly.
we may be answering our own question. Like, how was he? He was obviously good at what he was doing.
Well, he could.
You know what I
It could.
mean?
Yeah, it could have started out very like, "Hey, show me a picture of you in your bra" or something like that.
I can
And then
make
as
money
he
like
gets
this.
more, he
Mhm.
says, "Okay, if you don't show me you naked, then I'm going to send these to your folks,
Right.
or I'm going to send these
To
to
the
your
whole school.
to the whole school, your teachers,
Right. Which
that kind of thing." Which I'm sure that probably was happening.
I also watch Web of Lies on ID channel. But
God.
Web of Lies really will, like, it'll open your eyes if you watch an episode of it, because it's all about digital tracing, right? And it's like, it really is time consuming, and it's a huge web, and it's crazy, and you got to verify who's on devices. So the fact that there's that many phones, that there's a catfish situation, that there's, I can see now. That's why I wrote down some notes here, right? I can, and a lot of that has to do with the timeline, which I think has really fueled the fire as far as YouTubers go. It's just the time in general that it's taken, right?
Right.
So,
and before I leave, I want everybody that showed up tonight. After Matt left, we just lost like 40 people.
it's okay.
But man, thank you so much for all the new people, and you're welcome here. And like I always tell my crews, what I call them is
We do this.
we just wanted to feel like we're sitting at the house
absolutely
on the couch, just talking crime or talking paranormal. So you're all welcome here. I hope you subscribe. I hope you follow me and Garrett. Okay, like I said, we do more paranormal than we do true crime, but we throw true crime in there a lot. But anyway,
Well,
I
man,
want to thank all the new people for showing up tonight.
And while they're here, I just want to say this one thing. Okay.
And shout out to Graz. Thank you, Graz, for
Seriously.
sending some folks my way. I really appreciate that. It was very cool of you, man.
Hey,
there's Matt right there.
Oh, is that Matt? I was wondering. Yeah, Matt's so awesome, dude.
Yeah. Thank you guys for a chance to talk and hang up. Yeah. And all the people that Matt brought as well.
Hey,
so,
and what he was speaking to, I mean, we've been along for the ride with Matt, like on some things, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like through our episodes. I think that's one cool thing about our channel that like when we bring him on, it's so special. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But hey, one thing I was gonna say really fast is we don't cover crime all the time, right? We do the paranormal, the ghosts, the alien, you know. But when we do crime, I know one thing that we all three in here struggle with is like trying to wrap our head around the brutality of these crimes and things like that.
Mhm.
I just want to tell you, I like right before I came on the air, I don't know why I did this. I'm trying to not make a habit of it. I slid over to my news app
Mhm.
and it shows you the headlines. And it was like 19-year-old female found alive. I don't know, like weeks later, Utah female college.
Mhm.
you're talking about
Girl.
Maddie,
Madeline Allen.
the girl.
And I
thank,
just like,
thank God they found her safe.
thank God they found her safe. But as I'm preparing to come on the air with this episode, it just kind of snapped to me like, dude, they found her live. Thank God. How that was through an app.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That was her talking to a 39-year-old and arranging to be picked up. That's a college student. That's a 19-year-old female. So like for me to wrap my head around this, I had to rethink of it and say, like, this is happening. This guy had 500 people come forward, this
Right.
Kegan guy. So just the takeaway from me, from my end, having all daughters is scary shit, man.
Well, and sound reasoning in the human brain doesn't fully develop
And
until
hormones?
mid-20s.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
and me and
you
Garrett
know,
is 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
True.
we're,
Our decision-making process is like, it's just been so mind-blowing and eye-opening doing these cases. How many hours do you think we did Delphi, Pamela?
Oh Lord,
We did
15?
at
least
least.
because for a while we were doing 2 to 3 hour shows. We did 3 at the very beginning of Delphi. We've had Matt on 3 times now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe 6 shows covering Delphi.
I was literally taking like deep breaths earlier. I don't know if you guys could hear that. I was just,
it's covering true crime. It
Especially
can
this-
really be depressing and downing because you don't want to think that there's actually people in this world that are so brutal
right.
and that do the things they do.
And in darkness, there is light, though.
And
you know?
emotion, it does take an. I mean, I
Yeah.
can't imagine what Matt goes through because he studies this thing 24/7. Man, I would fall down in just deep dark depression.
Right.
if
No,
I
absolutely.
I would have to take.
That's
a
why
break
I'm glad
from
he
it.
has a team. It takes a team. Like, you know what I'm saying? It takes a team for sure.
Yeah,
But-
And guys, let me tell you, Matt, he has, as you can look up there, it says Crime Dive. That's his YouTube channel. My people, go over there and subscribe
For
to
sure.
Crime Dive.
Yeah.
He also has a fantastic Facebook page, Crime Dive,
Cool.
as well. So go check those out too. But anyway, well,
Great show. Thank you, Pamela.
Shout out to
dun, 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 dun.
Doug Sari, Mona, Susie Heath. Thank you
Yeah,
all for
seriously.
stepping in and helping do the moderation.
Yes.
Y'all are pretty much carrying it right now because I'm trying to look for questions and get to these guys because once they get rolling, it's hard to shut them down.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
thank you, Pamela.
You know what we're going to do, Pam, on the next show? You need to have control of clicking on that. So what I'm going to do is add, you're going to be on camera. I'm going to have to put you on camera and put a box up there.
Robin.
Or you could take it off, and then that will give you the same screen we have.
You
And
just
then
want a Robin like Howard
I
Stern.
want a Robin like Howard Stern or Jamie like Joe Rogan. But that way you'll have control of, you can just hit that thing and it'll show up there.
Awesome.
But anyway, guys,
Great, dude.
thank you so much.
Fantastic.
We love you guys. Appreciate it. And we will see you later
Good night.
next week. Good
Cheers.
night.